Right. So, yeah, please tell me about your ideas, criticism, or things that you think could contribute.
Very ambitious. It's a very ambitious project. I can see the benefits of it. It sounds incredibly early days to implement something like this. I think it'll take quite a long time for it to be to gain traction amongst enough people. Number one, understanding what it is, and then also trusting it in a way. You're talking about making your own laws or changing laws. Like how would these possibly be upheld? You know, what sort of, if you're talking in marriage, the fact that we have different marriage contracts around the world, which you want to build a nation where to be married in that nation is one marriage certificate, one marriage contract.
Yeah.
But who would recognise that, apart from the Bitnation?
So, first of all, it would be recognized inside of this web of trust, inside of this peer-to-peer network. And the idea, of course,
so other users would recognize.
So, of course, the users will also increase with the amount of people who join this network.
Yeah.
They will implicitly also accept the contracts that come about from these interactions.
Right.
But the idea is to also develop or to go to talk to nation-state representatives to become actually recognized in individual nation-state countries. So, for example, in Estonia, we already had some partnership. Of course, this is not the full 100% partnership, but ideally, we'll come to a level of usage where nation-states will become really interested to collaborate with us because they would also get a new revenue source. Because they could offer their services on this free market of government services, and by working with us, they would at the same time implicitly accept the contracts that come out from this. And I think mostly smaller countries are going to be the ones who will first accept these kind of solutions. So Estonia is the first country in the world that allows non-citizens to become like online citizens of Estonia, to, for example, register your company there without being even able to enter the European Union. So, for example, an entrepreneur in Zimbabwe could simply register his company in Estonia, even though, because of the situation where he lives, he would maybe not be able to live and work there.
Okay, so Estonia would recognise that, would the EU, would Brussels recognise that?
So, yeah, I think that's still not being researched or still not being analyzed by the European Union, but it will be an interesting question of what's going to happen. Estonia is still doing this nevertheless already, and I think the trend is already going into this direction because nation states need to evolve as well, like as part of the digital transformation, and to realize that people who grew up now as the millennials, that they are already digital and they are already used to this. And it's going to be more and more likely that they will accept internet governments.
So the idea is to create not many nations, but one nation, one big nation.
No, there's going to be plenty of nations. The idea is to have a market. So,
but they also have to agree with each other, or I mean, at the moment we have the UN, United Nations, and they pretty much accept each other.
My question is similar to that. Like, what happens if two groups create a nation in the same place with different, one going against each other? Let's say in Catalonia there is a group of people who, it's just an example, one is in favor of aborts, like, and the other group is against. How they gonna manage?
So this already exists actually. We already have different Catalonia 2.0 nations on the app. And the idea here is that all the things that are being agreed upon here are completely voluntary. So they have no effect on people who are not part of these virtual nations. So all the constitutions, all the laws that come about from this, they don't have any effect on third parties.
On the nations.
only the members of these or the citizens of these nations.
Right.
And they will not be able to impose anything on people outside. So it's a network of completely voluntary interactions.
So the fact that they accept it within that nation doesn't mean that the country they're in, the laws of that country will accept their premise.
So yes, of course, and that's why we encourage everyone to use this. First of all, the highly cryptographically secured way. So we are giving everyone pseudonymous identities. We're not using biometric data. We are encouraging people to protect their identity, specifically in case that they're using laws that would go against the law where they live in right now. But of course, in the long run, this is not a sustainable solution, of course. For example, if we want to exchange physical goods, this would be a problem. For example, if I register a house on a specific law that is on the blockchain, and it's against the current law in the nation-state jurisdiction, it will immediately create conflict. So, of course, because of this and many other things, we will have a network of diplomatic ambassadors, not only global ambassadors, but people who have diplomatic education to talk to nation-state representatives, to grant these rights to our citizens to exchange goods and to accept, let's say, at least parts of the laws that come about from this. There's, for example, already one company that is focused on that, on like real estate, on blockchain, to conduct these things. I think it's inside of it's in the US, and they're doing this based on the US law. But I think this is the beginning, and then over time we will also see nations that will accept more and more deals and agreements that might be different, because they want to attract investors, they want to attract people from the outside. So, for example, in Honduras, they have this Chocolate City project. They're creating a new city just to attract people from outside of Honduras, to attract capital, and maybe in the same way they would also like to allow systems like Bitnation. And we will see how things are going. Of course, at the moment, it's in a very stark contrast to what nation states are doing, because they have the monopoly, they have the police and military power. But I think nevertheless it's worth to try and to create this web of trust. And also the whole thing is open source, so they can't kill us. Like, the idea is already out there, and I think the more we grow, the more the effect will be. Even though this is just the first project of this kind, we want to have more competition, by the way. Also, that's why everything is open source, because we need competition to create this new market, so people will see that it's actually an economically sustainable model, and to give it also more legitimacy. So I totally understand these concerns, but for the moment we have to have this transition period of just being pseudonymous, and then with time we can get the recognition from nation states to not get in any trouble with. So we can also have more. We can just be ourselves, just to be us.
So it's reliant on the volume of people they accept.
Exactly. So it's the same
people, then the governments will have to take notice.
It's the same like with Bitcoin.
A way of governance itself. It seems like, if you say if it's one nation, we're going to create a Bitnation where it's fully democratic, whereby all the laws are made for this one nation, people opt in or not. And by the law good it is, many people will come into it. But by making many more nations, it's sort of fractionalising what we already have. Right?
But
we've already got 160 in the planet, now we're going to build another 60 or something.
No, but the idea is to allow everyone to exercise their freedom of speech, also their ideas. And of course, in the beginning, it's going to be very fragmented, but I think also over time, some, let's say, more stable providers will also.
People will switch to that.
Yeah, I mean, it will also be based on the services that this nation actually provides.
Yeah.
In the beginning, ideas, ideologies, they have a very good business model to also sustain themselves, or to satisfy their citizens actually, to have to foster a sound culture also inside of their nation.
The people who switch your nation, let's say, I'm part of this nation. Well, what is that? And they tell you, well, that's a of my nation. I'm going to switch to that.
So that's the thing here is the opt-in and opt-out process is completely voluntary and has no additional costs. So in the existing nation-state world, you have very high cost of switching. But here you can just with your apps switch from one nation to another.
Yeah. And so the nation that's created by the people, the most altruistic one will come out ahead.
Yeah, it depends on what the people want, basically.
We don't want war, we don't want famine.
Yeah.
So anybody who's going to offer that, that's the one I would join. Probably makes that. I mean, it's simplified, but
yeah, we will see. But I think it's a great experiment at the same time to see what kind of nations are being created and what people actually want.
yeah.
Yes?
For now, like the conversation right now, I have two questions probably, because you explained like several use cases that probably like all of them like extremely positive and it's kind of the utopian vision of the project. Have you ever thought about like or I don't want to say dystopian, but like if something goes wrong or like some thing that could be like good to think about it in order to prevent them somehow? Just one question, and like the second one, talking about it's more on observation as a question. I think it's like one of the most ambitious blockchain projects that exists currently in the world. Also, I think that it's really in the early stage. It's like really a long-term project. So I see it's like now you have to create these networks to go to this, and like then probably even like not nations, but some companies that also have a lot of political power that can be like interested in this, because currently a lot of companies are interested in blockchain in general. In terms of if they have some financial interest in this, but I think it can go more. So like from that, like my question, how do you incentivize people to join your network? Besides of like just creating innovation, like to have a platform to speak out and to like explain their ideas, like do you have some like direct individual incentive for people to join you?
So first of all, about the dystopian scenarios. So yes, for example, the problem is with the reputation tokens that you can create endless fake profiles. So there's the problem of the civil attack, that you can just create fake profiles to boost your own reputation. People will believe that you're a very good provider of whatever service you provide, like be it arbitration, be it like even in the nations. So we have to create measures to prevent civil attacks. And therefore, one, not developer, but theorist, let's say, created the concept of online pseudonymous parties, where people, even though they're pseudonymous, can prove their individuality. And I think that's a very interesting concept that can help to prevent this kind of dystopia. So people have to join video chats all at the same time, once a month, and they're like grouped into 4, and they have to talk to each other for 15 minutes and prove to each other that they're humans. So it's not bots, it's not some AI pretending to be a human, and they cannot be in several chat rooms at the same time. So once they get these tokens, they can use these to access several services. And this way you can prevent that the network is overrun by bots or by fake profiles. And I think this one interesting approach for dystopians, you also have to consider that everything that comes out from this is only voluntary. So you, for example, if you have a KKK nation, for example, it cannot never exercise any violence because they don't know where the other people live. They cannot attack them or abuse them or anything because everyone is pseudonymous. And rather than imposing their ideas on others, they will just be amongst each other. Like they can live their ideology or whatever they think, and you actually take out this potential of violence from the real world and take it to the virtual world, which I think is also one way to give them their space, but to prevent them from doing any harm.
Maybe some wrong ideas they can spread out easily as well. Like we have this experience in the world already. Like for example, Peter, like everybody knows right now that he was his ideas are crazy, but the people follow.
But at the same time, they're risking many things because people will see what they're talking about, like in the nation. Like private chats, of course, have a very high degree of privacy and like cryptographic security. But everything that is being written on this nation, and you will see which public keys are member of the nation. So you will be able to track if you're trying to, I don't know, wage a war or something like that. It will probably not be so difficult to track down your crypto payments if you're like member of this KKK nation or whatever. But it's true, of course, the same things that are for any technology, like technology can be used for good and for bad. There was also someone saying that, for example, a child pornography ring could use this because this is also a general blockchain problem. Once you put something on the blockchain, it's there forever. So also bad things are going to be there forever. So we have to think about how to go about this. In any case, they will get a bad reputation probably because people don't like this and they don't want to have anything to do with these kind of people. And usually also these people will not use public chat rooms. But yeah, it's an important matter, and it's not only for Bitnation, it's for cryptography in general. So it can be used for good and for bad. And for your second question, so again, what was the final part of the second question?
Wait, what are the incentives for people?
The incentives. So basically, now we had like some airdrop. We had an airdrop for all the early stage citizens on our website, and are giving out pets for free to all of them, so they can use it on the platform. And of course, incentives are what I described before with the reputation mechanism. That for earning a good reputation, you will earn financially tradable pet tokens. And the more the value of the network, the higher the value of these tokens. So the holders of these tokens have also the best interest to create more economic activity and more interesting features. So the pet that they hold will also get more value. And yeah, it's kind of a cycle, let's say, to how they, at the same time, the people who hold tokens will also do things on the platform, and at the same time, when they sell them, the people who buy them, they will also want to have a good value, let's say, of these tokens, so they will participate in the project. But of course, also the incubator that I described before. We're helping people with good ideas to implement them with tech support, and also with like helping them, for example, to set up a business plan, like as a nation, like how they will provide these services and how they can distribute the resources. You could, for example, think of transaction tax. You could create a token with built-in transaction tax, so in every transaction there will be some part that goes to the nation's budget that could be used for some public goods or some beneficial services for everyone.
Besides the thing with Estonia, do you have any idea in the short term to bridge the gap between the virtual and the physical world, let's say?
So I think before we can like seriously approach nation-state governments, we need to have a much bigger community and more actually functioning services. So it's like still at a too early stage to approach governments, but I think as soon as we reach some sort of momentum and we become, let's say, also economically self-sustainable, we can start to actually approach governments to, for example, and also some are already interested. So apparently, for example, in Dubai or in Japan and like many more countries, the governments are already opening up for blockchain certificates. So they're already, for example, the government of Georgia is using blockchain to administer the land titles. So there's already several initiatives of this type. And for governments who still didn't enter the space, they would start the business specifically for this purpose, to actually talk to governments. One new idea that I'm trying to pursue right now is to help the government of Guinea-Bissau. People there don't really use IDs, so they have a very like bad functioning ID system, and we could help them to set up a new blockchain-based ID. And at the same time, they could use this also to access not only wallets but also bank accounts. So we could help them to solve several problems at the same time. They could use these IDs, for example, for blockchain-based voting, because they also have problems with their voting system. So they have problems with the administration and things. So yeah, there are all kinds of governments that lack, let's say, specific government services. They could also approach us. We can try to create a solution for them.
Actually, I think it's a really smart way of growing and to build something where it's really needed. It's not where the infrastructure is already there, because we're facing it in our projects as well. So yeah, like what you described, I think it's really kind of a way to push it.
And yeah, I know it's more difficult here because people think everything is working perfectly already.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there will be a time when people realize that it's not the way they thought it was.
I mean, like if you go to a place where there are no IDs and you just say we have an ID for you,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like easier to.
No, but I think for some people it will be interesting to, for example, here in Catalonia, to create services independently from the Spanish government. To have their own system, or to try out new laws, to write their own constitution. So yes, we are approaching all kinds of movements that are looking for sovereignty basically.
What's a unique feature that Bitnation has that probably can be copied by any other developer team?
So of course it can be copied because it's open source, and that's also the idea of it all. But yeah, right now we are the first ones to have a mesh network that has a functioning smart contract interface. And I think the other unique thing is basically the team. The team itself, the developer team is working really hard, and so I think a very good developer team. And of course also the vision. I mean, there's no other blockchain project that has this kind of a vision to create new jurisdictions, basically blockchain-based jurisdictions. Everyone's trying to cooperate with the existing nation-state law, and we're the ones who create completely new laws. Any more ideas or criticism?
There is absolutely no cost of implementing that.
Of course, there's costs, yes.
Where it comes from?
So basically, the process that I described before with the timestamping, every time you put something on the blockchain, there is of course a cost, and it's like a minimal transaction. You have to pay the miners fees as well. So I don't know, when I checked like 2 months ago, when the Ether price was lower, it was like 10 cents that you pay for, I don't know, joining a nation. So right now this is done for Ether, but I think in the future it will be possible to do it with other blockchains with their own respective currencies, or that we have some exchange so that, for example, people can also use PAT tokens to create nations, join nations, and do all of these services. But for everything that should be on the blockchain, there is also cost, because that's how the timestamping works. And of course, the nations will also have their own business model. They will also probably have fees for their services, maybe some membership fee. It depends on them how they want to have this. Maybe it's a subscription fee. And also arbitrators, they will also have their own way of marketing themselves. So yes, there are costs, but it's much cheaper than when you have to pay for a lawyer, for example. Nowadays, it's much more expensive. Existing court services and existing law system is much more expensive.
I was thinking not about the price, but who received that.
Where the money goes.
Yeah.
So first of all, for the transaction fees, that goes to the Ethereum miners. So that's like part of the whole concepts of how blockchain works. So for the blockchain to be safe, there need to be people investing their computing power, and as the return for that, they will earn Ether or Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency on the blockchain that they're mining. So that's like part of the compromise, let's say, for having a safe network.
It looks like it's difficult to achieve that real government agrees with that competition.
Mm.
You know, why a government should give the power to the competitor.
Well, maybe if they also get something from it themselves, like Estonia, like to also access people outside of their country, because now they can only get the money from the people who live inside of their geographic territory. But by using this, they can also potentially get more money from people outside of their geographic territory. So yeah, it's a risk, but they can also have a win-win situation.
Should be difficult to control because in that case, you can control the money of all Estonians around the world. That will be in plenty of nations, not real nations, new nations.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of these nations have their taxes, their
It depends on the nation builders. They design what they want.
so they will have the power of decide that they have two taxes to pay to Estonia, the real Estonia and the other one. I mean, you have to maintain both.
So in the case of Estonia, it's not like this because it's integrated in the Estonian law, and they don't think that there's a double tax. But of course, the problem is that if you pay for service on Pangea, for example, health insurance, and you already have to pay for health insurance in Spain, you will not want to pay extra. You will already have to pay here in Spain. So I think that's for the moment more interesting for digital nomads, for example, who travel and who don't pay taxes anymore, who are prior taxpayers. So that's the way how they can access these services, even though they're not registered in any country anymore. It also depends on the country where you live in. Of course, when they, for example, have no health insurance at all, then you will have a bigger incentive to join something like this. If you already have to pay your taxes, then maybe you will have to think about to move somewhere else, or I don't know. Like it's of course it's a problem, and we have to talk to these countries to have some agreements.
Did you do any research on it seems to be a funny topic to see what the adoption rate should be in order for the government not to either notice it, right? There's a fine balance in between the government noticing it, because if it's too small, nobody cares. Because at the end of the day, governments are human. And the rapid adoption rate of an actual protocol, and then it becomes too big to stop. No, but that's really interesting, right? Because Airbnb, just saying, like looking at different decentralization, looking at different, internet protocols basically decentralize certain services, they didn't get noticed by the government in a way at first because, it's too small, it won't happen, no problem. I mean, these people in the government are people. They don't give that much until shit goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing with technology, of course, is that when something's really good, or when the usability is at such a level that things, because it seems like you can really kind of pilot test, so to speak, create improve the usability of the protocol and of the entire UX experience basically, and then actually kind of explode out of nowhere. And the governments are way too slow to actually stop that, especially here. You know, here they'll be completely overwhelmed and they'll be finished. Because once people, let's say if we're talking about land in Africa somewhere, right? And monetizing your land, and it will be super interesting to see, you know, where this curve basically kind of picks up in previous decentralized protocols that were successful. Because at a certain point, the government it's becoming too big. You know, technology is unstoppable. Technology doesn't care about people. Technology doesn't care about governments and anything. It just goes. And then all of a sudden, right, governments tried to, well, just like all of the others, they tried to fight it, didn't work. I think it's kind of like Uber here. All of a sudden, Uber's in Barcelona, right? Because Uber's just pushing. Demand is there from the public, basically. They want to have it. And then, you know, Barcelona finally gave in. Okay, you know what? Limited amount of Uber. But I think it's a funny concept. You know, I think it's a real opportunity as well. I mean, it's difficult, but it's, you know, you don't necessarily have the, you know, the great success once you launch it. It's just more about finalizing, I think, the product at first, going in as a snake, you know, and then basically rising as a phoenix. Yeah, so, you know, and because then it goes so fast that the government won't be able to stop because they're too slow.
Well, then the ones like Estonia will benefit from the situation because they were already prepared.
Because they already prepared.
So that's also an argument. So why nations should already join now, because they should be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they can try, right? They can try and stop it, but it's like, you know, if the product is good, if it's usable, if it actually brings value to those who are in need, basically, and it starts to grow like, you know, because the technology is so fast. If somebody starts with, you know, oh, I made money with my land or something, you should do this too, you know? And then it just spreads like a wildfire. Yeah, then governments have a real problem. And it seems so far that governments are really unable to stop this. I mean, in multiple cases. Yeah. So that was actually another question, but more of a comment. But more of a comment. But now, the question at first was like, did you do any research on that? Like, I mean, it will be interesting to see some sort of, you know, if you can quantify this kind of growth principle.
That's a big point.
Yeah.
I think there was already some work about like some theoretical work about crypto secession, some game theoretical approach. I need to look further into that. That's actually very interesting. Also, our founder Suzanne, she's also really interested in game theory because actually everything is about game theory, like how you attract users, how you go into politics, how like in every like strategy you need game theory. So certainly we need to like analyze the motives and behaviors of all the participants of this game.
Yeah, no, exactly, because that's what it is eventually. That's a really interesting thing, interesting topic.
I think maybe the sort of countries, the poorer countries, developing countries in Africa, some smaller ones that got completely corrupt governments. I can see it in the citizens not having any financial instruments at all. They bank accounts and money, and the fact that, you know, technology, like someone was saying, it starts off and then it starts to move so fast, you can't keep up with it. Point in case is in Africa, countries that don't have financial infrastructure, banks, they don't have telephones. There's no telephone lines put in, and communication, you know, technology put in, and the relays, and they went straight to cell phones. So everyone's using cell phone, they're no longer leapfrog that technology. So the fact that when you're talking about creating a government, a Bitnation or a government within a country that doesn't have to go through setting up conventional government structures that we have now, which takes an awful lot of money. I can see those countries, like the people of the country, once they get contact, it would be joining and start doing it. Because then the ruler of those countries, the people in charge of it, they have to be, I know you talked about incentivized to accept it. So they would have to be given some sort of control, or they would have to, you know, because the people can say, okay, we are never going to have this law in our country. And maybe 90% of the country agree that that's going to be the law, but where's the infrastructure for implementing it? Where's the, you know, it's back up. Like you say, they won't have armies, they won't have it's sort of, yeah.
You have to show them how they can also financially win from this.
Yeah.
How they can also monetize. Or they can basically put their nation on the blockchain.
Well, the ruler of
Yes.
that country.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing is, in like third world countries, the government, they want control.
Mm.
And it's not only about like the income they're getting or they have, it's like they want to control population to stay right where they are. So they don't want any change because they are making their money from the port. So that's one challenge because like we face it.
Yeah, but if the majority of people in that country, 90%, say, well, I'm now going to do this, there's only 10% in opposition.
Yes,
Well, I know.
it's hard. Because
Yeah.
I know because I'm from Brazil. And
Yeah.
right now, to be honest, right now, like they are like they stopped all the trucks because the governor said that it would raise the price like 40 cents on the gas, and they stopped all the trucks, and it's like 2 weeks without gas, and all over the country, like, and it's not changing anything. They are doing the best, and it's not changing. They will raise the price. They said, okay, you have 60 days, and then we raise. And so it's gonna be hard. So like it's something that people would love in Brazil. To be honest, they will love it, but they will face like challenge to apply in the country and like maybe even violence and stuff like that.
For sure.
Because the country has an army.
Yeah.
But actually, as a matter of fact, the biggest part of our community is in Brazil. Like, we were.
It's perfect because they hate the government in Brazil. It's like it's on the face. Everybody knows it's like they're taking the money from the poor and like and to themselves. So everybody in Brazil is against the government. Most of people, I mean, like besides the people who are from politics, how do you say? Political. Yes. So there is a good idea. I don't know how they gonna like see that way. Sorry.
We're also doing meetups in Sao Paulo actually just next week, and we would like to create some prototype of an app specifically for their community and see like what kind of things do they need and how can we provide this for them.
They will adopt fast there. They will adopt really fast because it's what they want. I just don't know how the government will see it.
Well, it's anonymous, like you said, so anybody who's in that nation, alternative nation is anonymous anyway, everyone's just talking to each other.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good way also to mobilize people from against the, I don't know, dictatorial government. Because I'm from Belarus, and it's also the benefits of it was really relevant there because they have the same president for 30 years, really like 24 or whatever, and nothing's changed, and like officially it's like a dictatorship, but they go very just everything is okay. But I mean, it's not, but it's okay because people just can't mobilize their forces in order to do something and be, I don't know, I think it's also, if it's anonymous, people they don't afraid of saying something.
Exactly.
For instance. I think that these kind of countries could also be like official for example.
So their cryptography is the key to really.
And also like in the case of Belarus, it's also like it suddenly becomes like a country that's really adopting Bitcoin for some reason. It's like nobody expected it, but yeah. And I also have a question that I'm not entirely sure that I can promote correctly, but have you ever, like, because you're mostly talking about immaterial structures, like laws and reputation, I don't know, like ideologies, something immaterial, for example, or collaboration with other projects that are doing creating decentralized systems on something that has like a real material cost. For example, like energy, if I think about energy, so all these nations, they work in a decentralized way like ideologies, but they still will get energy from centralized So
Yeah.
there are plenty of projects as well, like even for example, energy, very popular with energy and blockchains.
I know that we're in touch with some eco-village in Australia, and like I think there's plenty of potential collaboration between these kind of like self-sustainable city projects, or in general smart city projects for decentralizing the whole energy grid, and also with all kinds of IoT projects. So I don't know, like all kinds of new technologies could be integrated with this. You know, like you can, for example, provide a constitution for bots. Yeah, you know, we're like trading solar energy on the energy grid in a district. Like they could use this as a way to settle disputes. So they could be like in a bot nation or something. Or of course, you. Actually, in one of the former meetups in Barcelona, someone actually recommended to just in the same way that cooperatives have been created here in Catalonia for solar energy, it could be used for many other things. I don't know, for urban gardening, for insurances. Like, of course, this is already something immaterial again, but you will be able to also exchange goods on this platform. It's just the interface to access these things. So it's just your ID, but then you can do with it what you want, and you can also have your physical local projects. Because we want to actually have a sort of tokenized crowdfunding actually for these things. So you could, for example, create a nation for your urban gardening project, and when people buy your newly created token, you can use this and to fund yourself and your project. So I think this is also an interesting aspect to build into this. Any more feedback? Or is it enough? Yes?
Just like a comment. I will try to find like a special, like a success case and try to focus on that, because like the vision, I would think like everybody here agrees that it's a good vision, and it's like somebody like we would like to have probably right now. But we are not even in the early adopters, we are not even in the innovators. It's like really, really radical. And I will focus on how to put this into something that's tangible. Maybe a good idea will be to empower local communities, whatever in the world, to do their stuff, or to reach agreements, for example, in a more easy and seamless way, instead of, let's say, interacting with your town hall, stuff like that. You probably can, I don't know, a block in your street, you can make some agreements and start like more locally, more in a small way. Because like if you're like, we have this phrase like you're shooting everywhere, probably you're not going to find anything. So the idea is to try to, I think there are really good use cases where you can apply it right away, and you can make it like try to gain a little bit of momentum, because if not, like it will take, I don't know, 100 years. You know? That's, I think that's a general feeling probably most of us have at this moment. Like it could take a really long time, but it could gain a lot of traction if you find like a success case or something that you may apply then and make it run fast instead of 10 years. You know?
So I was thinking of this project in Guinea-Bissau because it would be like a perfect field for experimentation, because it's a small population. It's about 1 million people. People there are very illiterate and they need some innovative solution. That's why also no banks have, for example, entered this market to create all these ID cards and so on. And if we succeed there, and so we have like in the way Estonia had these ID cards, we would provide to them also blockchain-based ID cards, but for Bitnation, then we would already have the whole country basically on Bitnation. I think that would be great place to start and to also show that it's possible to do this in Western Africa. But yeah, it's of course still too early. Like we need to have the software at the point where we can like really start to do this. But we already have a contact actually to the government there. So yeah, I hope we can pursue this and to just focus our efforts on this.
Yeah, for example, I know services, for example, is some like intangible thing that you can put it, because if you want to put it on, let's say I'm going to use this land, it will get into friction with the current laws that you have at that particular place. But if you have something intangible like a service, for example, it could be a really good example to make it run fast.
So one service would be, for example, passports. So we have contact to one of the producers of actually what the European Union is also using to print the passports of the countries of the European Union are using. And we can provide actual Bitnation passports. Of course, it will be difficult in the beginning, and you have to like always show, let's say, why this is legitimate. You have to justify yourself. But over time, this is also a matter of, you know, always keep on using it, creating this legitimacy, because it will have the same criteria, like let's say a Pangea passport that is already used by stateless citizens, and they actually cannot legally reject this way of documentation. Of course, like when you enter, for example, into the European Union, you will still need like passport of one of the member nations, but for other borders, you can already try this out. And in any case, when something goes wrong, we also have a legal team that's will of course help Bitnation citizens when they come into dangerous situations because of these things. But of course, for the beginning, it will be best to try it out on borders where you know you will not be detained because you already have the passport to enter there. But to already try it, you can pass through the checkpoints with the Bitnation passport. I think that will also help to go on with our project to create this legitimacy. So yes, I think it's enough for today. Thanks so much for coming and for your discussion. I'm always really happy to hear new ideas and positive or negative feedback. Thanks.